Hey everyone, it's Michelle.
I'm Brandy.
And this is Spooky Shit. So this week we're bringing you guys some Hitchhiking Cautionary tales.
Yeah, and then I'm going to start off. I'm sorry. I always do this. I'm going to start off with the short little Reddit story, and then I want to talk about Colleen Stan.
Okay, and I'm going to talk about the Santa Rosa Hitchhiker murders.
Ooh, I almost did that one.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Warning. This episode may contain graphic details. Listener discretion is advised.
All right. Well, I guess I'll get to reading.
Take it off, Brandel.
Alright, so this little Reddit story is titled Never Ever Ever Pick Up a Hitchhiker.
Whoa.
From the Reddit user The Best Jeans. Alright. So this was told to me by an old family friend, Nikki, numerous times as a kid growing up, as one of those life advice stories to keep in mind through the years. And to her credit, I have never forgotten it. Whenever anything associated with hitchhiking comes up, it always springs to mind and probably always will. Makes me a bit ill whenever I think about it, actually. So Nikki, who grew up at the same time as my dad, so this was about early 80s, I believe, was a young woman in her mid-20s. She was one of those really kind-hearted souls, always willing to help another out in a time of need, you know? And I can't imagine her being anything other than that when she was younger, so I totally see her doing this too. So, driving into the city, about a 2-hour or so drive from town, she saw a young man walking down the side of the road. As she neared, he turned and, in a typical hitchhiker manner, stuck out the old arm and thumb. Nikki, bless her heart, pulled over and asked him if he needed any help. She told me that he was really polite, if not a bit shy, when he asked for a lift into the city. Nikki gave a smile and popped open the passenger door for the guy, who tossed his bag into the back seat and buckled up for the ride ahead.
Oh no.
They talked pleasantly for most of the trip, about friends, the news, etc. You know, happy small talk. She felt that they were getting on really well and even bought him dinner at a pit stop a little over halfway there.
Oh.
She says he seemed really flustered and awkward when she paid, but one of the many things they had talked about was money and how he was pretty dang strapped for cash. Which was why he was hitchhiking in the first place, but he eventually relented and they went on their way. As soon as they got into the city, he thanked her profusely for the ride and the food and asked to be dropped off once they hit downtown. Before getting out, he asked for Nikki's phone number so he could contact her someday and catch up. Thrilled at the prospect of knowing how her new friend was faring, Nikki wrote it down for him and drove off with a warm feeling of a good deed done.
Oh no.
Now, I'm sorry if you were expecting something creepy to have happened by now, but I think this is what freaked me out so much as a kid, how nice everything seemed to have worked out. Nikki gets this crease in her forehead and a funny look in her eye when she tells me the next part. About a week later, she got a phone call from her driving buddy. He didn't let her get a word in besides hello, and told her that you should thank God that she was raised so nice, because when he first got into the car, he was planning on raping and murdering her once they got to that pit stop. He was going to steal the car and dump her body in a ditch further down the road and go on his merry way. But after she talked to him so kindly and treated him to dinner with a smile on her face, he couldn't bring himself to do it. He didn't think that he could live with himself after doing that to such a nice lady. And to please, Nikki, please never, ever pick up another hitchhiker. Then he hung up the phone. Nikki never got a call from him again, and when she tried redialing the number, she got a payphone. And so,
Holy
Mr. Hitchhiker,
shit.
I know I'm never going to meet you because I'm going to listen to the advice you gave your driving buddy and never ever pick up a hitchhiker.
That is terrifying.
Yeah,
That's not the turn I saw it taking at all.
me either.
Oh, hell no. I mean, I already don't pick up hitchhikers, but definitely not no more.
I know, when I saw that, I was
Never
like,
even
dude, I
gonna
have to
consider
share
it.
this little story. I was like, what the fuck?
Oh no. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you ever do pick up hitchhikers, be really nice to them, everyone. Make a good impression.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Holy shit. I'm gonna be thinking about that for a while.
It's gonna,
Ooh,
You're gonna
okay.
think about it all the time now.
I am. Thank you for deciding to share that one, Brandy.
You're welcome. All right, now to Colleen Stan's story. So Colleen was born December 31st, 1956, and was 20 years old when some unfortunate events happened.
Oh no.
So in 1977, Colleen was hitchhiking from her home in Eugene, Oregon. She was going to a friend's home in Northern California where she was heading to a birthday party. A man named Cameron Hooker kidnapped Colleen after picking her up.
Fuck.
Colleen stated that she was an experienced hitchhiker and had allowed 2 rides to go past before accepting the ride with Cameron.
Oh wow.
I know one of the rides she refused. It was just a bunch of young guys. Yeah,
Fuck
no
that.
thanks.
No.
But yeah, she reportedly felt confident climbing into the blue van because Cameron's wife, Janice, and their baby were in the car.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, when they stopped at a gas station along the way, Colleen went to use the restroom, and she says, a voice told me to run and jump out a window and never look back. So she had that, sense.
Oh no. She should have trusted that gut feeling.
Yeah.
But I guess no one does in the moment. They're like, bro, calm down.
Yeah, it's like, nah, you're overreacting.
I have anxiety. No, I get that feeling about everything. I can't trust my gut.
Wow.
If I ran away every time my gut said to, I would never leave the house.
Damn. But yeah, she ended up calming her fears and went back to the car. According to Colleen's and Janice Hooker's testimonies, once they were alone in an isolated area, Cameron pulled off the highway and put a knife to Colleen's throat. She was subsequently locked in a wooden head box, which was designed to prevent light, sound, and fresh air from entering.
What the fuck?
It gets weirder.
Oh my god.
But yeah, before the hookers kidnapped Colleen, Cameron was a lumber mill worker, and he and Janice had reached an agreement that he could capture a slave to take Janice's place. Because up until that time, Cameron had been using Janice to act out his sexual bondage desires.
Oh. Was she actually his wife, or did he assault her, or was she... I'm assuming he did. If she was okay with this, she probably was a victim of him. Fuck. Ew, dude.
Yeah, gross. According to their agreement, there was to be no penetrative? Yes. Penetrative.
Penetration.
According to their agreement, there was to be no penetrative sex, but this later changed. Once they got to their home in Red Bluff, California, he stripped her naked, hung her by her arms in his basement. He repeatedly whipped and tortured her before having sex with his wife beneath her.
Ew.
Disgusting.
Fuck. Also, Red Bluff is near my hometown.
Yeah, it's near Reading.
Yeah. Ugh.
Colleen was tortured and kept in a box 23 hours a day. Oh, did I mention that they kept her in this box under their bed?
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
How big was this box? Do you know?
They say it was a little bit. It was basically like a coffin sized.
Oh,
it was pretty small. It was basically a coffin.
But she wasn't like curled up or anything. She was kind of like laid out more.
Yeah, she was like just basically laying down the whole time.
It's literally a coffin.
Yeah. In January 1978, she was given a contract and forced to sign herself into slavery for life.
Is that legally binding? Can you imagine taking that to the court and be like, well, Your Honor, she said she'd be my slave.
Well, you'll see.
I don't
You'll
know
see
about
why
that.
she did it.
Okay.
Okay. But yeah, she told ABC 10 News that every day she saw a photo of Marie Elizabeth Spanhake? Sorry. A previous victim whose body was never found. She further...
Oh, previous victim of him?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Mm-hmm. She further stated that Cameron led her to believe that she was being watched by a large, powerful organization called the Company, which would painfully torture her and harm her family if she tried to escape.
Oh, no.
So that's basically how he, like, kept her in control.
Yeah, he, like, manipulated her.
But yeah, since she signed the contract, they referred to her as K. Like, literally just the letter K.
Ew.
And she was forced to call Cameron Master.
Oh, that is the creepiest thing. Oh my god.
She also wasn't allowed to talk without permission.
What the fuck?
I don't understand that.
Why is any of that surprising me based on, I don't know, it's just extra gross.
Yeah. Cameron reportedly wanted Colleen to be like the female character in 1954 French erotic novel Story of O.
Oh, I haven't.
Yeah, me either. I'm not familiar. I didn't want to Google it in fear that some other shit would pop up.
Yeah, it sounds rapey. So.
But yeah. He soon started raping her. Only orally, he said, because vaginally would breach his agreement with his wife.
That makes me feel like I want to cry. Oh my god.
That sucks. But yeah, he did basically rape her with like stuff, toys, objects.
That didn't breach the agreement?
No, I guess not, because it wasn't his body. Poor girl.
It's awful.
But yeah, sometime that same year, she signed the contract. Janice gave birth to their second child.
Whoa.
Colleen said that her faith in God and belief in a chance of escape helped her survive. She also just talks about how her biggest fear was the company, which Cameron basically like reinforced daily, like just kept reminding her about it.
Oh man.
And yeah, to avoid any painful punishments, she tried to comply with his like demands. But since she was like so, how do you say it? Like she would actually do everything he said.
Mm-hmm.
It actually led to her having some freedom.
Oh, that's good at least.
It gets interesting. So
I was kind of expecting the opposite. Like he didn't like that she was agreeing or something. Right? Yeah, that's interesting.
But yeah, she was able to go out for a jog. She was like introduced to the family, to their kids. Basically, she would basically like babysit. She was able to like work in their yard and like do yard work and stuff like that.
Oh fuck, just biding her time till she could find a way to get out.
But even with so much like freedom, she never tried to like say anything or like run, because she was just scared of the company.
Yeah, I was gonna say she was probably terrified that they were watching her. Like if she reached out to a neighbor that they were actually like the company or something. Yeah. And how awful would that be if that was real?
Yeah. But yeah, she even helped Cameron build a bigger accommodations. It's basically like a underground dungeon for quote more slaves.
Oh my god. One's not enough. I was like, oh, at least she has more space for herself. He was gonna find more.
This part I found extremely crazy. I was literally like, what the fuck?
Okay. I mean, this whole story's crazy,
Yeah,
but
you're
tell
right.
me.
But in 1981, Colleen was allowed to visit her family.
Oh my god.
Yep. She apparently never said anything due to her fear of the possible consequences.
Oh.
And her family actually thought she was involved in like a cult or something, because I guess when they saw her, she was wearing homemade clothes, didn't have any money, and just like the fact that they had no communication with her over the years.
How many years had it been by now? What year she kidnapped?
You know what? I knew you were going to ask me that, and I was not prepared.
You know, I had a feeling I was going to ask you that and you wouldn't know, but I had to anyway, because you said over the years it enticed me. I had to know.
It's been 4 years.
Holy shit. Oh my god, I cannot imagine. That's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like, seemed like it was just the normal for her now.
That's
Ooh.
sad.
Mm-hmm.
They also didn't want to pressure her into telling them anything because they feared she would like stay away forever. Like they were scared to push her away.
Yeah.
By like pressuring
That's
her
pretty
to
smart
like
of
talk.
them, actually.
And
Yeah. She probably would have stopped talking to them if they were asking questions. She would have been like, "Oh my god, they're in the company."
True, or she would have just been scared, like, because then she would be like, "No, I can't tell you," type shit. And then they would probably be like, "What do you mean?"
I don't think it would have helped her if they asked. I think it would have just led to her being pushed away. Hopefully they don't feel bad about that.
So. The next day, Colleen went for a second visit, but this time Cameron went along posing as her boyfriend.
Ew, I hope that they saw how fucking weird he is. You'll get to it.
No. They actually, like, she was just super happy to be with her family, and there's actually a picture of him or them with her family, and they're all, like, smiling. Yeah.
I'm speechless.
I wish they could see your face.
Oh my. I just know in his fucked up mind, he was like, thought that this was all like super normal and stuff. He probably didn't even consider her like a captive, you know?
Yeah.
That makes me upset.
Soon after the visit, Cameron feared he had given her too much freedom, so he took her back to his home where he locked her back in the box under his bed.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was the one who wanted to go over.
Well.
And now they have a picture of him.
But yeah, I just... basically, it was coffin sized, and I was reading about how she was basically in there 23 hours a day, and to like use the bathroom and stuff, she basically had a bedpan by her feet, which when she had to go, she would just like adjust it with her feet like all the way up under her, and then
oh my gosh,
I was like, dude, that's just horrible.
That is awful.
But yeah, it was stated in court that the kids were told Kay, aka Colleen, had gone home. But once they went to bed... What?
I guess I just didn't really think about... I thought he was just like locking her up for a second. Not like lying to the kids and being like, she's gone now because they're no longer going to see her. Yep. Oh, fuck.
Yep. But yeah, once the kids went to bed, Cameron would take her out of the box to feed her and torture her.
Oh my gosh.
She reportedly was not allowed to make any noise and had to lie still in the dark with little air to breathe. I guess during the summer too, it was especially harsh because the box would rise over 100 degrees.
Fuck, I'm surprised she didn't die, honestly.
Dude, for real, like of a heat stroke? I'm like, that sounds horrible. I hate being hot. I literally get grumpy.
Oh, I like freak out. I make Robert go to Target with me because I'm like, I need to be in AC.
No, I literally get grumpy when I get hot. Like, I just can't stand it. I'd rather be cold.
Agreed. I could just pile on the blinkies.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's nicer to try to get warm than cool down.
I 100% agree.
So, In 1983, Colleen was reintroduced to the children and neighbors. She was also allowed to get a job as a maid at a motel.
Wow.
So she's been with them six years.
You probably don't know, but I wonder if the kids forgot about her and like it literally was a reintroduction because they were so little, huh?
They were little. I'm not sure.
They probably didn't even know her.
Yeah, they might have. I don't know.
Interesting. Were they like strapped for money and they sent her to get a job, or was this like a reward?
I think it was like a reward.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
Or just like that, like giving her more freedom, basically.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess Cameron wanted Colleen to become his second wife.
Nope.
But that was a turning point for Janice. She was like,
That was the
Janice
turning point for Janice? That was it?
Yeah, that was. Right?
Not the rape and torture for years.
No. That was
But
fine.
you can't marry her.
Oh, that's too far. Well,
God.
I read on one source too that the turning point was basically that he wanted Colleen to be his second wife, and he wanted to basically go get another slave.
Oh,
and that's why she was kind of like, yo. But
cool down.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, Janice later had confessed that since their first date together, she had also been tortured, brainwashed, and referred to as whore over the years.
Wow, the first date. Wow.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, well, why would you go on a second and get married to him?
He must have like probably done the same thing with like the company or whatever.
She also stated that she survived the relationship by engaging in denial and compartmentalization.
That makes sense. If you just pretend, no, this is fine, this is what I want, then you don't have to deal with all the trauma you're actually experiencing.
Very true. By August 1984, Janice began struggling with herself and actually went to Colleen while she was working and basically told her that she wasn't part of the company and like, it wasn't real.
Oh, fuck.
So after the news, Colleen went to a bus station where she called Cameron from a payphone and basically told him like, I'm leaving. His reaction really surprised me. He reacted by bursting into tears.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he literally didn't even like fucking realize he was still holding her as a captive. And I'm like, dude, she doesn't want to be there. If you have to keep threatening her and you're like torturing her, it's not like she's your girlfriend.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's crying like, don't leave me.
Yeah, basically. I read in, I don't remember if I wrote it down, but I read in a source that he was like basically just devastated because he really loved her.
No, you didn't.
Liar. But yeah, she did end up taking the bus home and left. In the months that followed, she did not contact police, but actually continued to call Cameron regularly.
Oh, man.
She explained this by saying that she wanted to give him a chance to reform, which was actually like Janice like asked her to.
Okay. I could see it too, because they're probably reminding her like, oh, he let you get a job, he let you go see your family, and trying to like guilt trip her. And she probably had like Stockholm syndrome a little bit too.
I think a little bit. I mean, it was fucking 7 years at that point.
Yeah. Especially as they start giving her freedom and it becomes like her new normal. I could see that. No, that's sad.
She spent like all of her 20s with him. She was kidnapped when she was 20, fuck. And then spent 7 years with them, so she was 27.
Yeah, it probably just clicked one day that she was like, wait, this was not a normal situation.
Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, 3 months later, Janice reported Cameron to the police.
Whoa, Janice?
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
She had told police about how Cameron had kidnapped, tortured, and murdered Mary Elizabeth Spanhake, who disappeared on January 31st, 19... 1976, which
I
was
forgot
just
that
a
he
year
killed somebody.
earlier than Colleen.
Whoa.
I'm guessing he really liked Colleen, though, because she lasted longer.
Probably because she went along with what he was saying and, like, ordered to stay alive, you know?
That's true. Maybe Mary Elizabeth was tough and fighting.
Oh, that's really sad.
Yeah. There's still... Authorities were unable to locate the remains, and due to the lack of physical proof, no murder charge was brought for Mary Elizabeth.
Fuck.
Yeah, Colleen and Janice testified against him. Janice actually got full immunity in return.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy how that works.
I'm still kind of torn on Janice. I mean, I guess she was a victim, huh? It just... I don't know.
It's
I don't want to
hard.
be an asshole and be like, she should have done something.
Yeah, it's hard. It's kind of like,
Yeah,
I'm
I
in
guess.
between too. Like, it's really fucked
I know.
what you
I can't
did,
say that. I can't say that I wouldn't do the same thing if I was also in her place. So that's why it's just an all around shitty situation. Let's just say that.
But yeah. In the end, Cameron Hooker was sentenced to consecutive prison terms totaling 104 years for sexual
Good,
assaults,
fuck 'em.
kidnapping, and using a knife in the process.
I like how they threw in that random and using a knife.
With deadly force.
I know. That made all the difference.
On April 16th, 2015, his request for parole was denied. He will be eligible for another hearing in 2030. Or he was supposed to be. But
Ooh.
due to COVID, California officials contacted Colleen and advised her that they were looking into possibly granting his parole in March 2021. So last month. But
holy shit.
I don't think it happened because I didn't see anything when I was like searching his name.
Give him the vaccination ASAP and keep him in there.
Give him the Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, that one shot, he's good. You don't need to let him out. He's gonna go kidnap someone else for sure.
I mean, maybe he'll get a bug cut.
Oh, yeah. The rare chance.
The rare chance.
If anyone's going to, the 1 in a million, it's this guy.
Yep.
I really thought you were gonna say, but he didn't get the chance because he died or something. But it was the exact opposite in that, oh, maybe he was gonna get released. I was like, holy shit. That's so scary. Hopefully he doesn't.
Yeah, I hope not. But yeah. After the trial, Colleen studied for an accounting degree and tried to move on to a normal life, but misery followed her.
Mm-hmm.
I guess she just had like a bunch of failed marriages and a troubled kid who ended up in jail.
Oh man.
Like, that sucks.
That really is sad.
She also joined and volunteered for Redding's Woman Refuge Center, an organization to help abused women. Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's one good part.
Mm-hmm. Janice reverted back to her maiden name and became a registered associate social worker and has worked as a mental health professional. Which I was like,
okay.
Now she's on the other side. I'm like, that's cool. Have you heard of the, how do you say it? The Poughkeepsie tapes?
I have not.
Oh, I heard it's like really scary. It's like a true crime series on I believe Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna look it up right now.
But I guess it's like super creepy, but apparently it's based on this case.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, oh, for real?
Poughkeepsie? Oh, I don't know how to pronounce that.
Poughkeepsie, I think, or something like that. There's also a Lifetime movie called The Girl in the Box, which I'm like curious to see.
Oh, Lifetime. You had to do it, didn't you?
Yeah. You know, them and their dramatic asses.
Oh, yeah. I bet it's a great Great movie.
There's also adaptations of the case on TV shows like Criminal Minds, Ghost Whisperer, Law and Order SVU, and Wicked Attraction.
I knew that there would be a Law and Order SVU inspired one in there.
There has to
There
be,
always
right?
is. There has to be. It's law and order.
But yeah, that's the story of Colleen.
Well, that's horrifying.
I know. I was like,
I'm
dude,
glad she
that's
didn't-
literally the worst possible thing that could happen when you hitchhike. Well,
Yeah,
I guess
that
besides
really-
getting murdered.
It's all bad. Let's be real. But it reminded me of the Cleveland. What was it? The Cleveland abduction victims? What is it called? Like the 3 girls who were kidnapped when they were teenagers and kept by that dude for like years.
Yeah, but it was their
We talked
daughter's
about in the-
friends, or his daughter.
Yeah, we talked about it in our Escaping Kidnappers
Yeah, I think
episode.
Leah's the one that talked about that one.
She did, yeah. That's what it reminded me of whenever you said that she was building an area where they were going to keep more people. I was like, oh no. Nope.
Mhm.
Ugh. That's scary. Never go hitchhiking, please.
Mm-mm.
Oh, it was the 3 Cleveland kidnapping survivors, and the episode is Escaping Kidnappers and Whack-A-Mole. We didn't have much funny things to include in the episode name to lighten it up, so not my favorite title, but it'll do.
It does the job.
It does. Shall I get to my story?
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to give an extra warning for it's just fucked up. For Brandy's too, I would like to give a apology warning. We should have done like 20 extras for that one. That was fucked.
Sorry.
But it's okay. We have the Robert warning in the beginning. It's just, sometimes they're so bad that I'm like, dang, Robert's was not enough.
Yeah,
We need
so you need another.
we need more. We need a 20-minute apology video at the end of this recording. I'm so
Are
sorry.
we YouTubers now?
Yeah. It's not even our face, it's just a screen.
It's just our logo.
Yeah, just our logo. That's how our YouTube videos are for the podcast. And I'm like, I don't know what to make these videos. I just put the logo over the entire thing. Most of our listeners are not on YouTube. Our videos get like 1 fucking view, so it's fine. But anyway, so this week I'm going to be talking about the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders. In 1972, 12-year-old Maureen Sterling and 13-year-old Yvonne Weber were students at Herbert Slater Middle School in Santa Rosa, California. Maureen had 1 sister, and Yvonne had 2 brothers, and she also had a sister who was born after she died. Spoiler, it's about murder. Yeah, in case you didn't guess. But anyway, on the evening of February 4th, 1972, the 2 were dropped off at a local ice skating rink by one of their moms. When the mom came back around 11 to pick them up, they were nowhere to be seen. So, in the 70s, of course, hitchhiking was super common, and both Maureen and Yvonne were known to hitch rides, much like many other people that they knew. It turns out that around 9 p.m. on that night, friends saw the 2 getting into a car in front of the ice skating rink, but it's not known whether they were forced or went voluntarily. This ended up being the last time that either of them were seen alive. They were eventually reported as missing. Yvonne's stepfather later said that the girl's disappearance was treated as a runaway case, likely due to them being seen getting into that car, 10 months later, 2 teenage boys hiking around East Santa Rosa found the skeletal remains of Maureen and Yvonne at the bottom of a steep embankment about 66 feet away from the road. Due to the deep state of decomposition, no cause of death was able to be determined, but it definitely appeared to be from foul play. The only evidence found at the scene was 1 earring and a gold cross necklace. There were no clothes found either, so it's assumed that the bodies were nude when left there. Maureen's mom recognized the earring and the cross necklace as belonging to her daughter, and the other earring in the pair was not found. In 1972, Kim Wendy Allen was a 19-year-old art student at Santa Rosa Junior College. Her parents were divorced and lived in the Bay Area, and she had a brother and a sister. In high school, Kim had been senior class spirit leader, and one friend described her as the most unique person I've ever known. They noted that it was hard to get close to Kim, but she did have an all-out enthusiasm for things that she was interested in. She was also described as being happy and popular, and she trusted everyone and believed that everyone was good. Just a week before her murder, Kim had actually spoken to her sister about dying and told her how she wanted it to be a joyful event, a beautiful ending for a beautiful life. On March 4th, 1972, just a month after Maureen and Yvonne went missing, Kim had just left her job at Larkspur Natural Foods and was headed to Santa Rosa. She was able to hitch a ride part of the way by two men who last saw her around 5:20 p.m., hitchhiking near the entrance to Highway 101 North. The next day, a few high school students found Kim's nude body face down 20 feet down an embankment on the side of a road about 8 miles southeast of Santa Rosa. The teenagers who found her just happened to stop there while riding motorcycles. One of them walked to the side of the road and looked down when he saw what he thought was a mannequin. He then realized it was actually a body and began to walk down in hopes that Kim was still alive. But within a few feet of her body, he noticed that she had like an unusual angle to her neck, and she just knew that she was dead. One of the motorcyclists left and called the police. Kim had died at least 12 hours before her body was found. Her wrist and ankle showed signs that she had been bound, and there was evidence that she was raped. It was determined that her killer had slowly strangled her for at least 30 minutes.
Fuck.
I cannot imagine. No ligatures, either for bounding or strangling, were found at the scene. The right side of Kim's body had an oily substance on it that was similar to oil used in machine shops. Semen was found on her body, and also found at the scene was a single gold loop earring. On top of the embankment was a possible leg print that theoretically could have been caused by the killer slipping or falling in the embankment while disposing of the body, and this could have potentially injured him or even broken his leg, depending how much he fell in. The person who found her also saw all the undergrowth at the bottom of the embankment and thought to himself that the killer probably could have covered her if he'd wanted to. The two men who I mentioned that gave her a ride, I obviously immediately was like, okay, it was probably them. They were ruled out as suspects, and one of them passed a polygraph and stuff. So Kim's checkbook was deposited in a drive-up mailbox on the morning of March 24th, 1972, 20 days after she was murdered. Although 2 fingerprints were found on the checkbook, unfortunately investigators had no suspects to compare them to. An orange backpack that Kim had been carrying the day she was murdered was also found several weeks after her body was discovered. And I really wonder, was it her killer who dropped off her checkbook? That's weird.
Yeah, that was weird.
Or was it just a good Samaritan who found it and was like, oh, this girl's probably looking for her checkbook? No idea what happened.
It's
possible.
Could be either one.
Yeah, definitely. Laurie Lee Curso was a 13-year-old 8th grader who was reported missing on November 11th, 1972 by her mom. She had 5 brothers and a sister. Laurie actually had a history of not only hitchhiking, but running away from home. So on the 11th, she had been shopping with her mom at the grocery store U-Save when she disappeared. But it wasn't foul play or anything. She was actually seen again after this, and she'd just run away from her mom to go and live with friends.
Damn.
Yeah. Her friends last saw her on November 30th. On December 14th, 1972, a young couple found Laurie's frozen and nude body about 50 feet away from the road down a ravine. It was about 30 feet over an embankment when it appeared to be stopped by trees. She had not been raped, and her cause of death was a broken neck with compression and hemorrhage of the spinal cord. She had possibly died at least a week before being found, and she had a single wire loop in each of her earlobes, but the rest of her earrings, the decorative parts, were missing from the scene. After Laurie's body was found, a witness came forward who may have seen her being abducted. According to this witness, he saw 2 men leading a girl that looked like Laurie's description to the back of a white van with an off-colored driver door before these 2 men pushed her inside. He saw the van speed off and noted that the driver was a white man who had an Afro-style hairstyle. This sighting was in the evening between the days of December 3rd through 9th, so it fits in with her estimated time of death. I read a theory on what police think may have happened to her from Wikipedia, and again, I couldn't read the actual source because it's coming from a book, but I thought it kind of made sense, so I'm going to share with you all. So supposedly they believe that she was kidnapped and stripped of her clothing by her abductors, and in an attempt to escape her kidnapper, she may have opened up the van door and either A, fell out, B, jumped out, or C, she was pushed out. But regardless, in this scenario, the fall from the moving vehicle is actually what caused her to break her neck, she fell into the ravine. And since she already fell in there and presumably broke her neck from the fall, her abductor just left her where she was. And according to what I read, while the broken neck would have kept Laurie from moving, it likely would have taken a while for her to actually die.
Oh, damn.
Mm-hmm.
Why you gotta tell me that?
Horrifying. I had to tell you that because I have to live with that knowledge that this 13-year-old might have just been there with a broken neck in the snow dying. And it's horrifying. And now you all have to know that too. 15-year-old Caroline Davis had also run away from her home before disappearing. Random, and it's kind of like yours, Brandy. She actually lived in Anderson and Shasta County, which is right next to where I'm from. So a lot of NorCal references this episode, apparently. And she actually went to Anderson High School, where there's just the high school that like most of my friends went to, and the high school I was actually supposed to go to before I went on homeschool. And that extra creeped me out, just knowing that she went to that school. I don't know. It just freaked me out.
Yeah.
So Caroline ran away from home on February 6, 1973, but it seems she at least had been seen by her grandma, who dropped her off at the Garberville post office so she could hitch to Modesto on July 15th of that same year. She was last seen hitchhiking that afternoon near the southbound Highway 101 ramp. On July 31st, Caroline's nude body was found 3 feet away from where the bodies of Maureen and Yvonne had been found months earlier.
What the fuck?
What the fuck? So if that's not confirming that this is the same dude, like, what the fuck are the chances of that?
Yeah, that ass.
So her cause of death was strychnine poisoning. So I looked this up, and it's a poison that can be fatal if you take too much, and it can be consumed by inhalation, swallowing, or absorption through the eyes or mouth. Within 10 to 20 minutes of being introduced, the body's muscles begin to spasm, starting with the head and neck. Over time, these spasms spread throughout every muscle in the body and cause you to convulse, and they get worse with any stimulus like light or noise. As it gets worse, your backbone begins to arch continually, and this all basically fucks up your entire body and can lead to death, usually within like 2 to 3 hours of exposure, due to asphyxiation from your breathing pathways paralyzing. And I don't know about you, but I always imagined death by poisoning to be like quick and not the most painful, and I was so wrong.
I guess it depends on what poison.
I guess, but you just see in movies, they're just like, eat something, and then they die. And it's like, oh no, it takes hours of pain.
I mean, it doesn't seem very
scary.
painless. Like when they start like convulsing and foaming at the mouth or
Fair point. I guess rather I just thought it was quick.
puking their guts and then dying. Like,
You know what? Maybe I've been watching really child-friendly stuff where they don't want to depict all that. So it's just they eat and they go, bleh. And that's it. Because I thought it wasn't that bad. And then I scrolled over the poison on Wikipedia, and it was just like, basically like the worst poison of all used by assassins and stuff. And I was like, what? And I had to read about it, and I was like, yo, what the fuck?
Damn.
But yeah. So Caroline had been killed around 10 to 14 days before being discovered, and it could not be determined if she was sexually assaulted. An autopsy did find an injury to her right earlobe that looked as though someone had tried to pierce her ear, but no injuries on the left ear. I did read one news article from like around this time saying that this wound may have just been from the decomposition process, so I'm not totally sure. But it was believed that her body was thrown from the road, as brush on the side of the hill didn't appear to be disturbed at all. Theresa Walsh was 23 years old and lived in Miranda, California. She had last been seen in Malibu, where she was with friends before she left to hitchhike and attempt to be with her parents and son in Garberville for Christmas. She was last seen by these friends on December 22nd, 1973, although she had already been reported as missing by her mom on December 13th. 6 days after going missing, her nude body was found partially submerged in a creek north of Santa Rosa by 2 teenagers who were boating. She had been strangled to death about a week before being found. Theresa was hogtied with a nylon rope, and she had a noose around her neck that was positioned in a way so that if she struggled, she would be strangling herself.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. Her thumbs were also tied together, which is weird. And as well as being strangled, she had a severe wound on the back of her head, a black eye, and she had been sexually assaulted. Something about hog ties freaks me out.
That's
So there's
horrible. There's like no way out of that.
Yeah. There's not. And I feel like, because obviously people do that like consensually, like BDSM stuff. But hogtie specifically, I feel like I only ever hear that in fucked up stories where someone died,
True.
I'm sure there's people out there who love it and are consenting, but you don't hear those stories enough. So just reading about it scares me. Anyway, there was a chance that her body could have drifted several miles from where it was left, so they didn't know exactly where it was dropped. On July 2nd, 1979, the skeletal remains of a young white woman were found in a ravine about 100 yards away from where the body of Laurie had been found years before. The victim had apparently been hogtied in a similar way to Theresa, and pieces of cloth were found that suggested her body had been stuffed into like a duffel bag or something before it was dumped to the ravine. Due to the amount of time that she'd been left there, it's not clear what her cause of death was, although it's believed that she was strangled and her arm was fractured around the time that she was murdered. This victim was likely between 16 to 21 years old, 5'3", with red, auburn, or brown hair, and at some point in her life she had broken a rib which had healed at the time of her murder. Her eye color could not be determined, but she wore hard contacts which she kept in a metal candy tin with a picture of cherries on it. One expert believes that she was killed between 1972 and 1974, and the identity of this victim is still unknown.
Damn.
So, in 1975, the FBI issued a report saying that the murders I mentioned above were likely all committed by the same person, and there are also several other murders that were committed by the same killer. And I don't know why. I think I've said this before. Whenever I research, I go from Wikipedia first, and then I go and slowly find like more niche areas. And they put these all separate. So I don't know why these are all separate and there's not much information on them. Maybe they just weren't really written about. But yeah. 20-year-old key punch operator Rosa Vasquez was last seen on May 26, 1973, and her body was found days later on May 29th in San Francisco. She had been strangled, and her body was thrown off the road into some shrubs. 15-year-old Yvonne Quillenton was 7 months pregnant when she was found strangled to death in San Francisco on June 10, 1973. 16-year-old Angela Thomas was last seen in San Francisco on July 1, 1973. Her body was found the next day on a playground of a junior high school, and she had been smothered to death. A locket was found near her body. I wonder how they smothered her. They must have like drugged her or something before, because
I don't know.
That's crazy. 24-year-old Nancy Gidley was a radiographer and had previously served in the Air Force. She was last seen at a motel on July 12, 1973, and was found strangled to death behind a high school gym 3 days later. She was wearing a single fish-shaped gold earring. 22-year-old Nancy Fossey went missing after going dancing at a club in Sacramento. Her body was found on July 22, 1973, in none other than my hometown of Redding, California. Yeah, she'd been stabbed to death. The only times we mentioned Redding in this podcast, it is only bad things. I don't live there for a reason. 21-year-old Laura Odell went missing on November 4th, 1973, and was found 3 days later in some bushes in San Francisco's Golden Gate Park. Her hands had been tied behind her back, and her cause of death was either head injuries or strangulation. 19-year-old Brenda Murch was found stabbed to death in her own home on February 1st, 1974 in Marysville. I thought that was shocking that they believe this was the same person. She was killed in her home, because that's so different.
That sounds like some Richard Ramirez type shit.
It 100% does. And I was thinking of Richard Ramirez whenever they said that girl's thumbs were tied together, because he did like thumb handcuffs on somebody.
That's true.
Yeah. I don't think he was even considered a suspect for these though.
He's a suspect in your eyes.
He is. 14-year-old Donna Braun was found strangled to death on September 29, 1974. Her body was found in the Salinas River near Monterey. All of these additional victims I just listed were all found nude. And kind of like I said, the reason I put these after the other murders is because a lot of places don't seem to treat them as though they are for sure, even though the FBI said that they were connected. So, I don't know, do what you will with that. So, while those are the confirmed and probably confirmed victims of the killer, there are a few more people who may have also been victims. These ones were not mentioned in the FBI statement. So, I'm going to start with Jeanette Camahill. Jeanette was a 20-year-old student at Santa Rosa Junior College who went missing on April 25th, 1972. the same school as Kim from before. And like, I feel like she almost definitely knew Kim's story probably because this was just within months of Kim being murdered. So Jeanette was last seen hitchhiking to school near a Highway 101 on ramp. So I'm not sure if she was taken by force, but reportedly a friend actually saw her abduction and said Jeanette had entered a faded brown Chevrolet, I don't know car breeds, pickup truck that had a homemade wood camper. The driver of this car was a 20 to 30-year-old white man with an afro hairstyle. Sounds familiar, because someone else had that same description before. Her roommate was immediately worried when Jeanette didn't show up at home that night and checked her classes, where she learned that she didn't show up to class that day either. She said Jeanette was very stable at school and not flighty at all. She would never take off and not tell anyone that she was leaving, so the roommate reported her as missing that night. And side note, Brandy, if anything like this ever happens, like we're planning to do the podcast and I never respond to you, be worried. Like, tell Leah to come over here and find me, because I am also not the kind of person who would ever do anything like that. Yeah. I would flake on you for sure, but I would tell you I'm flaking on you. Just so you know. It's good. It's good for people to know.
Noted.
Yes. Investigators think that she was murdered, and actually when the Jane Doe I mentioned above was found, a lot of people assumed it was going to be Jeanette's body. Like, articles I was reading from that time where they're like, yeah, they're pretty sure it's her, but teeth x-rays ended up not being a match. And it cannot be confirmed that Jeanette was a victim of this killer, as her body still has not been found as of this recording.
Damn.
Yeah. So, 14-year-old Francine Trimble and 15-year-old Carrie Graham went missing December of 1978. The two girls were next-door neighbors in Forestville, California, and had met in elementary school where they became inseparable friends. On December 16th, 1978, the pair left home and reportedly visited a mall in Santa Rosa to get some Christmas shopping done. The girls didn't arrive home that evening or the next day, and within 24 hours, Francine's mom reported her as missing, and Carrie's mom went on to report her as missing that same month. I think the holdup regarding Carrie being reported missing was that in the past she had run away from home. Because I read that and I was like, why would she? What do you mean later that month? But it did seem more unlikely that she had run away this time, as she'd recently gotten her appendix removed and was taking antibiotics for this, which were left in her bedroom. Neither of the girls seemed to have taken anything with them like they were running away, and both families told investigators that they thought they were the victims of foul play. They did, however, admit that the girls could have possibly hitchhiked somewhere, which seemed to be the police's main theory. On July 8th, 1979, the skeletal remains of Francine and Carrie were found by two tourists in Fort Bragg, California. And this was about 80 miles away from the girls' home. It was purely by chance that they were even found at all. The two tourists had gotten into an argument and pulled over where one of them walked away, like, probably to calm down. And while they were walking, they, like, wandered into an overgrown area by a creek, and they discovered a human skull. As they didn't have cell phones at the time, the two left a soda can by the side of the road to mark where they'd found the bodies and drove to a nearby city to call police. Like, how did you get anything done before there were cell phones, bro? A soda can to mark a child's body being found? Jesus Christ.
But true.
True. That's why every story I'm like, they found them and then they left and then they came back because no one had phones. While investigating the scene, it was discovered that both victims had been bound by duct tape and covered with plastic before being buried in a shallow grave. It was concluded that the victims had been killed elsewhere and that their bodies had been left at this scene. It could not be determined how they had died, as there was no evident trauma in the bodies, but strangulation was possible. Much like the Santa Rosa hitchhiker victims, these two also had no clothing on them, but a single earring was found. Later on, it was discovered that this earring belonged to Francine. So, while I already told you that these bodies were Francine and Carrie, this was not known to, like, the public or the families for a really long time. Initially, they actually thought that one of the bodies had been a young male, as before puberty, I guess that the bones for male and female are just, like, super fucking similar. And they also initially thought that there was a high probability of the pair being brother and sister. So just, they didn't know what they were fucking talking about. It was two girls that were best friends and not related. So wrong. And it was not until 36 years after they died that Francine and Carrie were actually identified. Dude, super recent actually. Their bodies were released back to the families in 2016. And the murders are still unsolved, although the case remains open. The last person I'm going to be talking about is 17-year-old Lisa Smith, who was reported as missing by her foster parents on March 16th, 1971. She'd been seen hitchhiking in Santa Rosa, and an article that was reportedly published in 1971 actually said that Lisa had hitchhiked to San Francisco on March 26th when she was picked up by a male driver. They had been driving 55 miles an hour on a highway when the driver pulled out a gun and threatened to rape her. To escape her would-be rapist, Lisa jumped out of the car and she actually got injured. And according to this article, she had to be taken to a hospital for a concussion, but she left to continue her journey to San Francisco before she could be interviewed by police. According to the same article, at some point her birth parents seemed to locate her and take her back home. But according to a 2011 article, Lisa may have never actually been found at all, by her family. And of course, all the hospital and law enforcement records related to this case are now missing. So she may have been able to get away from the serial killer, and she may have escaped one predator just to go and run into another one. Because it's still not known where she is today. People are just hoping she's safe somewhere.
That's crazy.
I'm like, how do you not know? But also her name is Lisa Smith, so probably the most common name in the world. According to an article I read from the 70s, there was a huge amount of young hitchhikers in the Santa Rosa area being raped and sexually assaulted around this time. So in 1971, reportedly there were about 80 rapes reported in Sonoma County, and it was noted that 9 of 10 rapes go unreported. So we could just assume it's fucking 800 or something.
Damn.
Awful. To try and protect their peers, some students at Sonoma State College actually started a carpool system to match people who had cars in free time with people who needed rides, just to keep everyone safe. Turns out they didn't even have public transport set up for that school at the time, so if you didn't have a car, it was basically your only way to get to school was hitchhiking. So tons of people did it.
That's crazy.
I know, right? They had even begun a terrifying list saying, watch out for these men, detailing different stories of scary experiences that these girls had from rape to just creepy dudes and stuff like that. And I was like, how do you have an entire list? That is so scary. Fuck. And while this seemed cool and sweet and wholesome that they were looking out for each other, not everyone was happy about this carpool, which I can't. Once this little makeshift program started, 11 men went on campus to protest it. They called the rape of hitchhikers inevitable and saying that the hitchhikers should relax and regard it as a learning experience. One man was quoted as saying, he publicly said this, hell, the chicks like it.
What the fuck?
So this definitely spoke a lot about how people thought of female hitchhikers and sexual assault back then. This dude, in my mind, literally just revealed himself to be a rapist to a newspaper and, not a care in the world. He's like, oh, no, they like it. And to me, I was like, you've probably done it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so sketchy. I'm like, who hears about a carpool system being set up to keep girls safe after girls have been, raped and kidnapped and murdered? And they're like, I want to protest this carpool. Only rapists do that. That's what I'm saying. And to be clear, people like this are also why people don't come forward about sexual assault. Because I said, it spoke about how it was at the time, but I think that there's people like this even today who speak like this, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
It's terrifying. But anyway, there are a few different suspects of the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders, including the infamous Ted Bundy, who was ruled out in the 1970s and then again in 1989 based on credit card receipts, placing him in another state at the time of the murders. A 41-year-old man named Frederick Manali was considered suspect. He was a creative writing instructor at Santa Rosa Junior College, which, if you remember, a couple of victims went to the school. So Frederick wasn't even considered a suspect or anything until 1976 when he died in a car crash. And in his belongings, they found a sadomasochistic drawing. Yeah, sadomasochistic drawings that he had drawn of Kim Allen, a previous student of his who happened to be a victim of one of these murders. And as far as I know, there's no other evidence saying whether he was or wasn't the killer, but even if he wasn't, he's definitely a fucking creep.
Sketch.
Yeah, and since he died, I don't think that we are going to find out anything else about that. One very popular theory is that the Zodiac Killer is responsible for these murders. And I'm not going to go into the Zodiac Killer because we actually have an entire episode where I talk about him called Serial Killers in Juby. And just go listen to that. I don't talk about this case in it, but I tell you all about him. And at first when I read this, I was like, there's no way, because if you remember, the Zodiac Killer usually killed couples. But then I was reminded of a letter that the Zodiac Killer had sent to the San Francisco Chronicle in 1969, in which he claimed, "I shall no longer announce to anyone when I commit my murders. They shall look like routine robberies, killings of anger, and a few fake accidents." And that blew my mind because I was like, oh, fuck. But also, I don't know if he would be doing so many of the similar things, like the strangling and the leaving ravines, if it was him. I don't know. The only other sign I saw that it could have possibly been the Zodiac Killer was something found near Caroline's body. So apparently on the roadway above where she'd been found, there were twigs that seemed to resemble an occult symbol that dates like way back to medieval times. And, you know, your boy Zodiac loves his symbols. So people were like, oh my God, it could be him. But some investigators didn't think that was even a possibility. As of now, the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders still remain unsolved. In 2018, DNA was brought for testing to hopefully find the killer the same way that the Golden State Killer was caught. But so far, there are no updates on that. But yeah, I hope you guys don't hitchhike ever. Hopefully these stories aren't enough. I mean, my story had like 14 people. So, don't hitchhike.
And if you do, if you do, be careful.
Be careful, yes. Oh my gosh, but maybe just don't.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Because I am scared for you.
You shouldn't. Remember it.
Yeah, if any of you have ever been hitchhiking and like had any weird experiences, let us know. Hopefully not awful. Hopefully it was just like weird people and you weren't hurt or anything, because that would be scary. I don't know. But do you have anything to add, Brandy?
No.
Have you ever been hitchhiking?
No.
Me either. I've always been paranoid. So if you guys want to email us, you can at thespookyshit.pod@gmail.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are spookyshit_pod. And our website is spookyshit-pod.com. Thank you all for listening. We will be releasing an hour-long apology video shortly for how awful these stories are. Oh my God. Thanks for getting through it if you did. If you didn't, you won't even hear me say this, so it doesn't matter. All right. Talk to you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.